this lesson, we'll learn how to proxy SSL traffic when the client is validating the server certificate. So within our emulator, let's try to log into the application with the username as Dade, password crash, and define the IP address that the backend servers are listening on. This time, let's click Verify SSL and click at Login. You should get an error message similar to the one shown on the screen. Now that we've confirmed that the application is validating the certificate, let's close out our emulator, kill Apache, and look at Burp's configuration. From within Burp, select the current proxy instance, click Edit, and then make sure you tell it to generate CA signed per host certificates. Then click the Update button and verify that under Cert it says per host. Next, launch Internet Explorer as administrator by right-clicking it and selecting Run as Administrator. Once Internet Explorer is loaded, check the proxy settings by going to Tools and then Internet Options. Select the Connections tab and then LAN settings on the bottom. Just make sure that the Burp instance is defined within the proxy server. Now, let's just go to any site that is going to provide us an SSL connection. So here I'll just go to mail.google.com. You'll notice that we get the certificate warning, and just click Continue. Click Continue again. Next, let's import the certificate. In the Certificate Path tab, select the port swigger CA, and then click View Certificate on that one. Click Install Certificates, and let's save it to the Trusted Root Certificate Authority store. Click Next, and then Finish, and then finally Yes to import the certificate. Now let's close out of Internet Explorer, and then relaunch it as a normal user. We'll try to go to https mail.google.com one more time, and we shouldn't get our certificate error. This means that the PortSwigger CA certificate is successfully in our store. We can see this by looking at the certificate information. Next, let's close Internet Explorer and access the Trusted Certificate Store so that we can export the certificate. Just go to Start and type MMC /A. From within the Management Console, go to File and then Add Remove Snap-in. Select Certificates and click Add, and then select My User Account. Then select the Trusted Root Certificate Authority and find the PortSwigger CA. Right-click and click Export. Stick with the default options and then define a location to save the certificate. Click Next and then Finish to save it. So let's close out of the Management Console, and now we'll just double check that the file was written to the directory that we defined. Looks good, so let's close that up and move on to the next step. From the command line, we can manually launch the Android emulator. Once the emulator fully boots up, let's just minimize it for now. Now, from the command line, we'll use ADB to pull the cacerts.bks file, which is the certificate store for the emulator, to our local system. We'll use the key tool that's included within the Java JDK to insert the PortSwigger CA certificate into the cacerts.bks file that we extracted from the Android emulator. Next, we'll copy over our newly modified cacerts.bks file to the emulator. First, let's find out the block device that's associated with the system mount point. So here it's dev block mtd block 0. We'll remount the system mount point as writable so that we can save our file. Then just use ADB push to upload the cacerts.bks. Next, we'll have to make an image of the root file system as it exists now. First, we'll create a temporary directory to upload our tools. Next, let's copy over the file system utility from the extras folder in the bundle to the temporary folder we just created. Next, we'll set the appropriate permissions on the utility so that it can be executable. Now we can make an image of the file system. Keep in mind this can take some time, so we've kind of sped things up a little bit to make it a little easier for you to watch. Once the image is built, just transfer it from the emulator back to your local system. Now that we have the image, we can close out our Android emulator. Next, we'll replace the Android emulator's file system with the one that we created so that the certificate store contains the Portswigger CA certificate. We'll go ahead and replace the system.img file, which the Android emulator uses as its file system, with the one that we've created. So let's first make a backup of it, and so here I'm just naming it -old. And then I'll copy the image that I've created, go back to the Android emulators directory and paste it in. Once that's done, we'll need to create a brand new AVD to use it. So we'll go into the Android AVD manager, run it as an administrator. We'll first delete the old AVD that we've been using, and then create a brand new one with the same parameters. So here I'll just click New, we'll name it Hacme Android, select the appropriate API level, specify the SD card size to 256, and then press Create. Then, just as before, we'll go ahead and use our start apache.bat to start up our backend services. Minimize those, and then launch emulator.bat to start up our Android emulator. Now we'll just have to wait a couple more seconds for the emulator to load. And then once it does, we'll reinstall Hacme Bank Android. Just use the ADB tool to install the APK file within our bundle. And then back within the emulator, we should see Hacme Bank Android installed. Now, we'll try again this time to log in as Dade, password crash. We'll define the backend IP address for the web server. Click our Verify SSL button, click Login, and that's it. You've now completed Lesson 9.